The United States is cutting short the Gaza ceasefire talks and is bringing home its negotiating team from Qatar. The U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff has turned Hamas's approach as a lack of desire to reach a ceasefire. Steve Witkoff is now blaming Hamas for the ceasefire failure and has said that Washington, D.C. will now consider some alternative options. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that his government is still seeking a ceasefire despite recalling its negotiators from Doha. He is accusing Hamas of blocking an agreement and has added that Hamas should not view Israel's willingness to reach a truce deal in the Gaza Strip as a weakness.
We are working to get another deal to release our hostages. But if Hamas perceives our willingness to reach a deal as a weakness, as an opportunity to dictate lines of defeat that will endanger Israel, it is greatly mistaken.
Now, on the ground, the Gaza Strip, the situation shows signs of worsening by the hour under a continued Israeli blockade. The death toll due to starvation is now up to 113. The United Nations Humanitarian Office has said that at least about 13 children's deaths were reported in July, with the number growing steadily. The head of the United Nations Agency for the Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, has warned that child malnutrition is continuing to surge, coping mechanisms are failing, and access to food and care has disappeared, and famine has silently begun to unfold.
The child is suffering from lack of food and drink. There is no food, nothing to drink. Everything is so expensive. As you can see, the flour is expensive. Even the water. We spend 2 or 3 hours filling up one bucket.
Now, in greater numbers than ever, the Palestinian children are being hollowed up by hunger, and they are also overwhelming the Patients' Friends Hospital, the main emergency center for malnourished kids in northern part of the Gaza Strip. The very worst cases are being kept for up to 2 weeks at the center's 10-bed ward, which this month has up to 19 children at a time. Now, 5 deaths last weekend also marked the first seen by the center in children who had no pre-existing conditions. And it is not just children. Starvation horrors have extended even to pregnant mothers and the entire Palestinian population. The doctors have warned that the worst is yet to come because of the Israeli blockade.
Today we are talking about 150 cases in 1 week of pregnant and lactating mothers who are exhausted and unable to breastfeed, and baby formula is at exorbitant prices. They can't produce milk. The pregnant women are malnourished and result in malnourished babies, so instead of 1, we have 2 cases.
The situation in the Gaza Strip has given rise to protests worldwide against Israel's stand. Within Israel as well, there have been some calls for the government to take measures to end the suffering or ease the suffering of the Palestinian people in the enclave. On Thursday, the Israeli police dispersed and also arrested some activists in the city of Haifa who were protesting against this war on the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Now, similar protests have been held in Tel Aviv, but with peace hopes having fallen through again, relief for the people who need it remains as distant as ever. All right, now joining us on the broadcast, we've got Mr. Chris Doyle, who's the director of CABU, that is Council for Arab-British Understanding, and also the current lead spokesperson for CABU. Mr. Doyle, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Let me in fact start off by asking you this. The fact that the negotiations for ceasefire seem to have now effectively failed, with the Americans calling back their representatives, is there, in real terms, a desire for a ceasefire from the American and the Israeli side?
There probably is a desire for a ceasefire, but on Israel's terms. That is that, first of all, Netanyahu has his own particular timetable. The Knesset, that is the Israeli parliament, goes into recess for the summer on Monday. And this is very crucial to him because he needs to keep his coalition together. He has lost 2 parties from it in the last few weeks. So that is an important date for him. but he's also been playing for time for quite a while now, in that he wants to see protracted negotiations on this. He's not in a rush to get that ceasefire. But where the pressure is on him is internally, because so many Israelis, increasing the majority of the Israelis, are against this war. They want to see greater efforts to get the hostages released. And I think Netanyahu is more interested in getting the hostages released than a genuine ceasefire, because this has been the fundamental difference, really, almost throughout all the fighting since October 2023, that Israel is only prepared to have a ceasefire to negotiate or to have a hostage release in exchange for Palestinian detainees. Whereas Hamas, on the other side, its position is that a ceasefire must be permanent. And it now wants, because of the lack of trust, US guarantees that that ceasefire would be permanent.
Right.
And it's very difficult to bridge that divide. Hamas is arguing that why should we release hostages only then to have the military operations starting again once those hostages are released and bodies returned to Israel.
Right. Now, that's about the on and off talks about a ceasefire, but the other issue is about the starvation deaths that are being witnessed amongst Palestinian children. The fact that this blockade has now gone on for months and months and months. Why is it that the international community has failed in delivering any kind of humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip?
Well, it's a shocking failure of the international community, of leading powers who have the ability to pressure Israel to take action to ensure that aid gets in. We've reached a situation that is just so grotesque, where literally babies, children, as well as the adults, are wasting away into skeletons in front of our eyes. It's an extraordinary sight that in the 21st century that we are having a deliberate man-made famine in Gaza as a matter of state policy, and we are not seeing broad-scale sanctions on the party that is doing it, in this case Israel. There is absolutely no excuse whatsoever. It has to stop, but it's not going to stop by appealing to Israel's goodwill. It's not going to stop by issuing press releases or statements. It's not going to stop through negotiations even in Doha. It will need serious pressure. This is a government, the Israeli government, that has shown time and time again that it is willing and quite prepared, even keen, to cut off all food, water, medicines, power to a civilian occupation, civilian population, which is under Israeli occupation. It is actually obligatory on the state of Israel as the occupying power to provide for the well-being of the population within the Gaza Strip. So,
right.
Yes, the international community has failed. Quite why? That is open for debate, and people can make their own calculations.
All right, we'll have to leave there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Doyle, for joining us with that perspective there.
Thank you.